I feel like with this one, I'm gonna be repeating myself a lot in what I said with thingy of the Song Tarans. What was it called? War of the Song Tarans or something like that. But anyway, episode 4 of Doctor Who Flux, Village of the Angels. It it feels like it's two separate stories kind of shoved into one. It kind of feels like because this has obviously two writing credits, and I've got a feeling that the other writer wrote was either had written or was in the process of writing, more of a standard Weeping Angel story, and then later on it got added to Doctor Who Flux because it kind of feels like that. It kind of feels like it's being shoved in there quite a bit. It does feel like it is shoved in there. And it's doing the thing of teasing a load of things. For example, this episode, spoiler warnings ahead if you care, but this one is teasing, the division, and the division, wants the Doctor and the Angels are part of the division, blah, 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 blah. It just feels like a lot more, teasing, but it doesn't really progress the actual Doctor Who Flux story. And there's another thing. It just feels like it's going absolutely nowhere, to be honest. We don't really actually get to see, you know, much of people like, who are affected by the flux as the flux is happening. We don't really get to see that effect. We get to see a little bit of aftermath of people literally going to, what survives of planets and that to basically regroup and, you know, basically our main villain, one of the main villains. Well, we'll call them. Let's see. Oh yeah, the Wish.com mask guy. Yeah, he shows up to basically take all the people because it sounds like I'm rambling. It sounds like I'm rambling, which I am. This story, it's less of throwing a load of things at the wall, which is what the previous week and episode 1 felt like. This one does feel more cohesive, but every time the first half is definitely better than the second half. When it is just a Weeping Angel story, a creepy Weeping Angel story set in the 60s at night, it works pretty well and it has a pretty good atmosphere to it, particularly, if it was. I would have enjoyed this a lot more if it was just like a basic Weeping Angel story of the Doctor trying to basically save some people who are trapped in a house that is surrounded by weeping angels. That would have been a much better story, but it feels like it's trying to shove far too many plot elements in at once. Also, speaking of the weeping angels, I said this last time, but the new masks they've got, they just look really fake. They look really fake. The new masks, they look a lot larger as well. The faces, and also they don't. The new screaming face they've got, they barely use. They barely use the new screaming face at all. Which is obviously, the most famous image that the angels have. They don't, for the most part, when anyone is being chased by a weeping angel, either the weeping angel's face is covered or it's just the neutral face, which does get rid of the scare factor quite a lot, unfortunately. So yeah, in that regard, it's a shame because it does have. I think it does have some creepy angel imagery, particularly in any sequences that are taking place at night, or in particularly when the house is under siege. Like this would have made a really good base under siege story. Unfortunately, Chris Chibnall seems to have the knack of just like, okay, you had a solid foundation there and you did nothing with it, or you just completely ignored it, or whatever. Just like there was a solid foundation here for a story, but instead it's just kind of roped into Doctor Who Flux and just like constantly teasing the viewer of things could come and things are happening. Which is just like, we're on episode 4 now. Like, the thing of constantly teasing your audience of, ooh, things are happening, but you don't know about that should be over now. This is when, you should either start answering some of those questions, or, you should stop asking them at least stop teasing the viewers with them, because you've only got 2 more episodes left, and it's just the wrap up for this. It is either going to be a Deus Ex Machina, which it probably will be, and it's probably going to be really disappointing. It's probably going to be very flat. Honestly, we also follow briefly pregnant woman, and I'm going to call her that because I can't remember her name. I don't really know anything about her character other than she's pregnant, and just like we keep following her. I don't know why we keep following her, because she's not interesting in the slightest, and so far she doesn't have really any plot relevancy. So yeah, it just feels like this episode is just kind of like an episode that was kind of halfway done, that was shoved into being Doctor Who Flux. It honestly does just feel like that. I'm wondering, when this series was originally planned out, because originally it was going to be 8 episodes, and probably at some stage it was going to be 10 episodes. I'm wondering if Doctor Who Flux was going to be more of a regular story arc, and it's just kind of shoved in there, because it just feels like it's being, forcefully shoved into things to make things seem bigger, more catastrophic than they are. So, yeah. I mean, weirdly, we get to know a bit more about the scientist in this episode than we do a lot of the other characters. Like, we get to know that he was a soldier in World War One, or was it World War Two? Yeah, it would have been World War Two, actually. We got to learn he's a soldier and that he never had kids or family and that, and he's obsessed with other people's minds. It's done in a very contrived way, but I will say the episode kind of gets away with it, since it's the angel talking directly to the character, and yeah, so that part was actually not bad. That part was actually fairly enjoyable, and yeah, I mean, this episode, I can't really say much about it in the terms of just like, I'm just really disappointed because the first half is, has its confusing elements shoved in there again, but when it is just the tense scenes of, the Doctor and Co being chased by Weeping Angels down into the basement of this house and going through some catacombs, that is legitimately good stuff. I was enjoying those scenes, but then when Doctor Who Flux's story showed its head again, just like, I completely lost interest again. So, yeah, that is a shame in that regard. Also, the sonic screwdriver apparently works on wood again now, which is really weird, because they remembered... Chris Kimmel seemed to remember, all the things about the Weeping Angels, but the sonic screwdriver, no, that's kind of gone. Okay. And then, obviously, bigger spoilers alert, the Doctor turns into a statue, into a Weeping Angel, presumably at the end. So is this trying to basically say that the Weeping Angels were once Time Lords? I don't know, or Division members? I honestly don't know. The thing is, though, this doesn't really hold any tension to it. It doesn't really, because we know it's going to get resolved pretty quickly. We know it's going to get resolved pretty quickly. And it's just like one of those things. It's just like, meh. We keep getting teased as well, just like, oh, all the things you did, Doctor, back then, blah, 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 blah. It's just... Doctor Who Flux's story, unfortunately, has the effect of basically dulling down everything else. And even when a story, because this could have been, not an amazing story, but this could have been a decent, little Weeping Angel story. It probably, wouldn't have wowed me or anything, but I could have at least said, oh, well, it was a fun little romp. But unfortunately, because Doctor Who Flux bringing things down in its constant teasing of just like things that I really just don't care about by this point. Like, you can only tease for so long things just like, ooh, this is important, or ooh, look is what is happening, for so long before you just lose interest and stop caring. And also, this is all gonna get this is probably going to be one of those, like at the end of series 3, it's just going to be one of those where time reverses kind of thing, because you can't get these stake levels of just like, oh yeah, the Flux has destroyed everything and that, and all this is happening. Just like, yeah, things are going to get reversed, or it's going to be something to explain. Just like, so I just can't, unfortunately, take the stakes as high as they are. But anyway, so yeah, Village of the Angels. There was a good story that could have been done, or at least, a half decent one. But unfortunately, it just completely decided to ignore that. And when it did decide to focus on, it didn't even focus on that properly. So there we go, people. There we go.